Yeah. So last week we ended with, sunscreens. I showed some evidence showing that sunscreens are probably not something you're going to want to be putting on your body. And then we kind of left it as you want to be as natural as possible when being exposed to sun, and probably not putting any protection from sunscreens on you. But there is something that is not well known that can help if you get exposed to too much sun, especially when you're first getting started and you don't really know how much sun is too much for your particular skin. And so what that is actually DHEA, right? So that is a precursor hormone to other sex hormones, but it does some unique things. I mean, it is different than sex hormones for a reason. And so basically, the way that you want to administer DHEA for sunburn protection specifically is as a DHEA cream. You can get this off of Amazon, but it is pretty available, I suspect, pretty much everywhere. But it's a DHEA cream, and you would just put it on your skin after you've been. So you don't put this on before. It's not protection. It is counteracting too much sun on the skin. So you happen to be somebody who's just getting started and you end up getting a little bit too pink and you're like, oh, I burned myself a little bit too much. What do I do now, right? Most people are going to turn to like aloe vera products and things of that nature. Those are going to help with the pain, but they're not really going to help mitigate the damage, right? Which is what you caused, a little bit too much damage. But DHEA cream actually is very, very potent at managing the damage. And what it does is it actually protects all the micro blood vessels at the skin level and protects them from being damaged so that the skin doesn't peel nearly as much. And depending on how bad it is, it might not peel at all. And the very next day, you'll probably be totally fine. And all you would do is just that evening, and you'll know, right? Everybody kind of knows when they've overdone a little bit too much sun. That evening, they're like, oh, I'm a little bit red. I can already start to feel the pain a little bit. Put some DHEA cream on it. You're going to go to bed and then wake up, and you're not going to feel nearly as burnt, and you're probably not going to peel nearly as much. And that is the DHEA cream. Now, on the same lines of DHEA, this is something that I actually look for, and we've talked about this in the episode of like sex hormones, fertility and stuff like that. DHEA is a leading indicator because there's something called the pregnenolone steal, which is DHEA can turn into cortisol, or DHEA can turn into your sex hormones. And if you have too much stress in your life, more of your DHEA is going to be stolen to get turned into cortisol instead of your sex hormones. And as you age, you tend to produce less DHEA. So this is something that is very valuable, especially as you age, because you're naturally going to produce more cortisol and less sex hormones from your DHEA. So supplementing the DHEA can help keep sex hormones intact as you age. And there's lots of evidence correlating DHEA to preventing osteoporosis, both in men and women. And there are two versions of DHEA on the market that are supplements that you don't need prescriptions for. One is just normal DHEA, and the other is 7-Keto DHEA. They are slightly different, so I'm going to explain the differences. DHEA is obviously going to become just DHEA in your blood work, and it can be converted by your body, by its enzymes, into your sex hormones and into cortisol. 7-Keto DHEA cannot turn into sex hormones and cannot really do anything else. But what it does do is very interesting. And it's important to note this because it can dictate whether it's beneficial for you. And I'll explain what 7-Keto DHEA does. 7-Keto DHEA actually governs your metabolism by interacting with your thyroid system. And what it does is it's a byproduct. So with 7-Keto DHEA, your body already naturally makes it. Some of your DHEA gets turned into 7-Keto DHEA naturally. And it interacts with your thyroid system to tell your metabolism, right? Because That's what governs your actions in your body, all of your reactions. It interacts with your metabolism to tell it, hey, you have plenty of DHEA and you should ramp up the production of turning normal DHEA into your sex hormones. So that's where it becomes valuable. It actually starts to signal your body to turn plenty of DHEA into sex hormones. Now, the time of day when your body naturally converts DHEA into 7-Keto DHEA is the morning time. So for somebody who's just getting started and trying to get more daylight exposure, or somebody who just lives a lifestyle that's it's kind of impractical to get it consistently, but they're having sex hormone problems, this is something that is very helpful because you're going to actively start telling the metabolism to turn more, if you already have plenty of DHEA in your blood work, right? So this goes back to, you need somebody that's kind of interpreting the blood work and your symptoms correctly to understand how to use 7-Keto DHEA and DHEA. But this is what it's doing. 7-Keto DHEA does not turn into your sex hormones. It just tells your metabolism that there's plenty of DHEA in your bloodstream and that more of it should be converted into sex hormones.
And this definitely ties into what we can talk all the time about, is that just reading your blood test doesn't mean anything if people don't understand your lifestyle.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we probably see it more often than not now, that we do it frequently, where somebody comes to us from someone else and they go like, oh yeah, everything's fine, or I was told this is up completely messed up. And then you speak to them and it's completely opposite. More often than not, it's just someone who has not a clue what they're doing. And let's be honest, there isn't even so much literature that talks about these things. There is literature about simple and kind of snapshots about, hey, this blood reading, if it's like this is what it means. But I haven't seen anyone putting it together, how it relates to lifestyle, because that changes everything quite a lot.
Yeah, because, well, let's just follow through with that example. If you're somebody who's consistently indoors, your DHEA in your blood work is going to be lower. And most people will be like, oh, we'll just give you a bunch of DHEA. But knowing that they spend a lot of time inside already makes me go, oh, their conversion of DHEA to sex hormones is probably also subpar. And you're not going to be able, that's not a blood work test, right? That's not, you can't find that out on blood work. So it's one of those things where knowing their lifestyle starts to point in the direction, you know, for example, I've had a consultation where somebody had middle of the line DHEA, but their sex hormones were subpar. And, you know, their lifestyle was indoors. And I'm like, what time do you wake up, and do you ever see the first 3 or 4 hours of sunrise? And they're like, no, I actually wake up before the sun comes up, and I'm at work basically the whole time. The first time I get out to daylight is like at noon. And so right away I knew it wasn't a DHEA problem. It was a conversion of DHEA into sex hormones, right? And so right away I implemented a little bit of a lifestyle change. Cold will also induce that change. So I started with cold showers in the morning along with some 7-ketone DHEA. Next thing you know, their testosterone and all their sex hormones about 90 days later are now optimal. And it was just a simple, hey, we have to start telling the body to turn on that process because you're missing the signal that tells your body, which is sunlight. Obviously, you know, on the weekends, or any days that this person didn't work, I wanted her to get out and get even more of a stimulus from the sunlight. But through chemical means, the 7-ketone DHEA, and mechanical means, the cold exposure, we started climbing up that almost immediately without changing too much of their lifestyle, at least on the days that they worked. So I just wanted to touch on that. And then there are some precautions, right? Especially if you're older, an older male or an older female, for men, you want to make sure that your PSA test, your prostate specific agent, is tested so that you don't, we don't enlarge your prostate more than it should be or anything like that. And this is for people that are like in their 50s, right? You just want to double check that. There is some precautions with DHEA because it is a sex hormone. Precautions for women.
And it's checking changes is more important than just checking the absolute value.
Yes,
a lot of times people will just read the value and, oh, this is bad or this is really good, but we're looking for changes over time.
Correct. Yeah. So you probably want to have a baseline value. So if you've never had this test, it might not be that valuable, but at least you want to check in on that type of stuff, right? And then for women, same type of thing. You want to make sure that you don't have any diagnosis of like hormone dependent problems, like your menstrual cycle is all weird and stuff like that. That one's a little bit, I don't want to touch too much on those because women are more complicated just because they have menstrual cycles, they have all kinds of hormonal fluctuations naturally. You kind of have to really know what you're doing there when it comes to women as far as like reasons why you wouldn't. But if you're, for all intents and purposes, healthy and you don't really have any health problems per se, when it comes to like, particular cancers or things of that nature, then DHEA and 7-Keto DHEA become valuable if you have sex hormone problems, like they're just underperforming. I think that's pretty much it as far as DHEA. It was just a brief overview of, hey, you can use it as a cream for mitigating sunburns, and then the benefits that it can bring in terms of amplifying your natural sex hormones if you have sex hormone problems already that are underperforming.
And that's definitely important because it will affect everything you do. It will affect your mood, it will affect your productivity, your mental clarity, and everything like that. This is why we kind of wanted to highlight this because